Hey, Ellie.
Hi, Silver.
What's up, man?
Not a mucho.
Did you have a good trip?
Good to go?
I did. It was fun.
All right, we're good. We're live.
That's fantastic.
I don't even know what we're talking about today. What are we talking about
We
today?
have no clue. This is a
Reoccurring theme.
yeah.
Well, I want to start with bananas,
Oh, jeez.
given the last podcast.
Bananas.
You know
He's-
what, though? No, I don't know what.
Got nothing.
I
Got nothing.
Well, it's a big deal with bananas these days. So apparently,
There's no such thing as a true banana anymore, right? Because they've been genetically modified so much that
I think
the
like
original.
in the forest of you
no,
know.
but isn't that what you found in your research? Didn't you find that? I heard that somewhere. I may have made that.
so we
up.
really are starting with bananas.
Well, I mean,
We are now.
So apparently,
You know what I don't like is artificial tasting, like
fake banana
fake
taste.
like runts, banana runts. They don't taste like banana. Like I like bananas.
I like my bananas a little green, too.
So
I don't
the-
like them all the way right.
Well,
Yeah.
But isn't that's like LaCroix in any flavor of fruit? It's fake. Banana flavor. I mean, do you like?
banana flavor is the worst on anything. Nothing.
Yeah, but I'm
nothing
saying
fake
even
banana
like
is good.
berry LaCroix, that doesn't taste like a fruit.
No, but I'm just talking like the artificial banana flavor, like banana runts, are the
get
worst thing on the planet.
Yeah, I'm not a big banana fan, honestly. You know, bananas give me gas.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't
That
mind.
just happens.
I'm just putting that out there.
I don't mind regular bananas, but
Well, so
I
just
thought you
like
were going to say you didn't mind regular gas.
it just depends.
Right.
If it's reoccurring.
That is gross. Yeah, reoccurring is a problem.
maybe
Yeah,
you have a
problem.
banana allergy. Anyway,
Oh,
so
that's true. I
there's
forgot.
like you know how like people that you buy concert tickets and like you can they release like the floor seats and charge more and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're gonna start doing. Fruit vendors are gonna start charging more for bananas based on the season. So if you want a ripe banana, now you're gonna have to pay more for it. So if you like firm versus squishy bananas, your bananas are about to get marked up. That's what I was getting at.
That
so
is bananas.
BANANAS.
So I was gonna ask you what your banana preference is.
I don't care.
If I'm going to have a
I like right in
banana,
the middle, probably.
I want it with peanut butter.
Ooh, yeah, me too.
Have you ever seen the SNL skit with John Cena, where he's the Alabama football player
Oh,
and he
that's so
does
funny.
a
You've showed me this.
science
Yeah.
fair project on bananas?
Yeah.
Very funny.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that's really good. And he gets like, and there's that really intelligent young lady
Yeah.
who's like astrophysicist, and she
Pretty
gets
good.
like,
Look it up. YouTube.
yeah, that's pretty good. What I want to talk about is my fat lip.
What happened
What'd
to
you
your
do?
lip?
Stung? Punched?
No, Gipper busted me in the face.
When was that?
The other day,
Throwing a ball? Throwing a ball?
I got up here, and you were the only one that here. You were running on the air runner,
Oh, okay.
and I came rolling in, and Gipper comes running over with the ball or whatever, doing Gipper thing, and I kind of got down like, "Hey, buddy,"
Yep.
and
No.
he popped up and just crushed me in the face, like hard. My lip started
no.
bleeding. It's just me. I'm looking around, trying to stay conscious. Well, I mean, he didn't hit me that hard, but
You've had that mark now for some days.
yeah, like now. But I think now I'm like, it's
Can't even
maybe
tell.
a cold sore
Oh
or.
no.
Nah, you're good.
Just a
Can't even
Gipper
tell. I didn't even
headbutt.
notice.
What about that kid that smacked you in the face at that gym
Oh
the other
man,
day?
he rocked me so hard.
I missed that. I really wish I would
You
have seen that.
would have probably enjoyed it. I mean, just getting down on the same level as a kid. He had the roller stick. Right here goes, "Dush," you know. I was like, don't
She's
cry.
like, "Hey, buddy, how are you?" We were at another gym
Oh,
in Knoxville,
gosh.
and
Oh, I thought I lost
getting
a
ready to
tooth.
do a workout, and she's like, "Hey, fella," and he's like, I don't know, was he 4, maybe a 5? Mm-hmm. But he had that roller stick, and he just smashed her
bashed
right
me.
in the face.
Something Lakeland would do for sure.
Oh,
and you
man.
don't know if you're gushing blood or if like a tooth is hanging by a root. That's where I was in that situation. I was like, is there blood coming from my face?
You were like,
I made
I was
eye
really
contact
proud
with
of you.
and
You were-
you were like, oh.
Smack the kid.
oh man, I thought
You
for
do
sure.
not hit.
I was like, take a step back, gather yourself.
I was looking for like a tooth dangling,
Yeah,
like
I was.
blood.
I
Luckily,
almost
that thing
cried.
like bends.
Oh, a little
That's probably
bit.
the
Yeah,
only-
it bent right around my teeth.
What's the hardest you've ever been hit? Like where you were like, shoot, like fighting for consciousness. Well,
In the face?
yeah,
I mean, I've had some football hits, obviously,
Right.
where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
probably concussed, but
Right.
get your bell rung a little bit.
right.
The hardest I ever got hit by was a baseball. David Price. There was two separate occasions. One was David Price won the Cy Young a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He was throwing, I think, like 94, 95 right in the
Ooh.
thigh.
Ooh.
And then another one I got hit right in the back of the elbow, and it hit the nerve, so my hand got stuck like this for like probably 30 seconds.
Could you even get to
Ooh,
first after you get hit in
seriously?
the
Yeah, I
thigh
was
at
just kind of
90?
like, oh yeah. I mean,
you dragging one leg behind
I was
you.
a leadoff guy, so I would get 0-2 or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'd kind of crowd the plate a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'd hang a curveball, and I'd
Trying
just
to
lean
get
into
hit.
it a little bit. So do what you got to do when you're a leadoff guy.
What's the hardest you've ever been hit? Like,
Like, by like a person or like an object?
just whatever. Just like,
I mean, well, what comes to mind is my car accident, but
ooh, that's nuts.
My
That's
shark
a crazy
attack.
story.
yeah, my shark attack.
Tell that story. Yeah, she's got like scar on her shoulder here, and she says all
I
the
forget
time
it's
that it's
there because I can't
not a
see
shark
it.
bite.
a shark bite.
Dre believed that
I
it was
believed
for
the
a
first
year.
time. I was like, wow,
I
okay,
didn't.
because you're always swimming. You've been in the ocean. You grew up in Florida.
From Cocoa Beach.
Right. Like, okay, wow.
I got bit by a shark. Well, that's what
Yeah,
I
he's
used to
an
tell
animal.
people that.
She's not that cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got hit by a drunk driver on my driver's side of my 4Runner and flipped 4 times, and that's from the glass.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah,
It's
that's
such a
legit.
weird thing too, because all I remember from it is I was going to like pick my friends up. It was late at night, and it was such a like surreal thing because all I remember is hearing like the loudest boom I've ever heard in my life, and then everything was dark.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, is this a dream? Like, this is really weird because I don't remember ever seeing the car. I don't remember flipping through the air in slow motion. It wasn't until someone found me in my car. So it was crazy.
Did they ever find the drunk driver?
No.
So how do you know he's a drunk driver?
Oh, actually, no, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, because the grill of the F-150 was in my trunk, which I don't know how it got there. But when we
Wow.
went to go look at the car, there it was back in there.
They
Yeah,
were
it's
probably
crazy.
like, you're lucky to be alive and be here.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's the hardest you ever been hit.
I was walking between soccer fields at a tournament.
Smacked with a soccer ball.
Yeah. And like I've spent much of my time mocking and making fun of other people who got hit by soccer
yeah.
balls because they're not paying attention.
Right.
And you go to these big tournaments, and these are grown women. They're U18.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
they're hitting-
so
they're kicking hard.
They're kicking the ball hard. And I remember cutting between these two fields, and it's kind of like you in the car thing. I just remember fighting for consciousness, like trying to.
Really?
Oh yeah, like stars,
Oh,
like
gosh.
just staggering, like.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was horrible.
That's awesome.
And then when I kind of came to, I hear a, oh my God, sorry, Uncle Jim. And I kind of figure out that there's this dude I played football with in college. His daughter and my daughter were born at the same time, and they've been friends all the way through life. But they lived in a whole other town.
Right. Yeah.
It just happened to be her that kicked the ball and
Smacked
whacked
you
me
right
in
in
the
the
head,
face.
you know. And people were laughing, and you're like,
oh dear.
that was stars. That was the whole deal. Things are going black. You're like, wow.
Oh,
Stay awake.
The fighting for. Actually, I did get hit by a car on my road bike.
Oh yeah, you told us this.
Yeah. Oh, and that's like I broke. Well, that I remember everything. I remember the look on the girl's face. So I was crossing an intersection, and she like had she could turn, but I had a walk sign, and it was in a college town. So she hits me, and I remember flying through the air and coming down on my arm, and then looking her in the eye as she backed up and drove around me. And I was
Wow.
like, oh. So I looked down because you're still in shock, and all of a sudden my wrist, like it was like a grapefruit. And I
Right.
was like, oh, this isn't good. So I'm like, well, maybe I can get back on my bike. And I look back, my bike's in shambles. And then the waves of pain. So I'm like walking it across the road. And this guy who's, bless his heart, he was so sweet. He has like this old school, what are those vans called? Like Astro vans?
Creeper van.
Yeah. And he grabs my bike and he helps me into the car. He's like, where do you need to go? And I'm like, just take me to the trainer. So we get in the car and like we're going back to campus. And he's like, oh no, I'm out of gas.
Oh.
And at this point, I have my head out the window and I'm trying not to pass out.
Oh,
and he's
no.
like, I don't have any medicine, but I have some herbs. And I was like,
Some herbs.
no herbs.
Smoke some pot.
I mean,
Got
it
some
was
herbs.
so
Got
bad.
some herbs.
So he dropped me off at the training room. And that's probably the most pain I've ever been in my life. Cause when they got me to we had a team doctor, which was awesome. Like went straight in, went back there and he's like, well, it's broken. He's like, there's 2 things I can do. He's like, I can stick a needle this big in your wrist and then set the bone, or I can just set it. And he's like, I promise you the needle's going to hurt just as much as if I just set it. I have never
Oh,
screamed,
jeez.
hollered, felt any pain like that in my entire, I mean, he just looked at my shambled thing and was like, whoosh, and I was like, oh, it was horrible.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was over it after that. That was,
You didn't pass out through the whole thing?
no.
Wow.
Just exactly like you described, just a lot of like fighting the the tunnel
closing in.
vision, and you're just like, you're fine. Ow, 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 ow.
Oh,
Ow, ow, ow.
man.
You know?
I told you the fast break story from high school. Basketball.
No.
Yeah. So how do I describe this delicately?
Delicate.
You're on the break, right? On the outside, it's 3-on-1. Take the ball. You go up over the guy. You're gonna try to dunk the ball, and his knee ends up right.
Yep.
Yeah. And the whole crowd's like, "Ooh, whoa!" Because you just hit hard, and then you hit the ground, and everybody freezes, and the whole place is quiet, and doesn't even hurt. How's that possible?
And then
And then after the game, everything is discolored. You end up at the urologist. Oh, geez.
Oh, no.
we've had similar one. I slid into second, and my cup centered my left.
Oh, jeez.
A couple days later, I was like, man, it still hurts. And Dad's like, well, let's go to the hospital. So me and my dad are at the hospital. That was the most awkward experience of my life.
Nah, not good.
But I was thinking the hardest I've been hit also. That was a different story. But we were playing one of those alumni football games. And I only remember this because we were watching the film after. But kickoff, I get the kickoff. And you can see literally on the entire film, this one guy completely untouched from the outside. And so I'm cutting and I cut through a hole. Dude, just nobody touches this guy. Not even slowed him down.
Yeah.
Decleats me.
Yeah.
My feet go up, my cleats go flying up, literally decleated me. Helmet goes off. That was the hardest I think I've ever been hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many
Wow.
times do you guys think you've actually been concussed? You guys did really serious guy things growing up, so I can imagine you've probably been.
Too many to count.
The football world that I came up through college was this whole awareness of CTE and all that was not there. And so there were no doctors, there was none of that. It was more of a, hey man, shake it off,
Yeah.
point you back in the right direction, and
Rub some dirt on it. You'd be good.
and so, lots of times,
So more than you can count as well.
lots of times, yeah, for sure, lots of times.
This is random, but I saw this earlier. Did you know cereal restaurants are a thing?
What?
Cereal restaurants. Would you go to a restaurant that is exclusively cereal?
Why would you?
At this age, no.
They're popular. They're ridiculously popular. You eat
In
cereal all
college,
the time.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a late night, you get done at the bar, you go to cereal. I would eat some cereal, and you'd have multiple different kinds of cereal. Is it you get to pick whatever cereal you want?
I mean, I
don't have
didn't
to,
really
order it because
investigate, but
I like to eat
you
my
would
cereal
think.
pretty quick after I have milk on it. I don't want it sitting there.
Yeah, I don't want to get mushy.
you don't want
Remember
your cereal under the light.
In the cafeteria, the cereal
Oh,
machines,
yeah.
So good.
and then the milk machine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so that is kind of the same
That's a
thing.
thing. It's the
Anyway,
same
that's
thing.
But why would you pay though to do that though? I'm trying
It's
to.
novelty. It's like people that go to have you been to one of those griddle restaurants where you make your own pancakes and whatever?
No.
Well, first of all, they're 3,000 degrees. I've been one time. And you go and you're like, this is the coolest thing ever. They're going to bring us out these little squirt bottles. We can design pancakes. You put whatever you want in it. You sit down at the table and it's so hot, you're uncomfortable. You're doing this, and it's
Because of the griddle?
And the griddle, because it's so hot, and you're making the pancake, and you're get away, and you're in a booth. You can only go so far. So literally, I don't know if it was
Sounds like
hippie
death.
or what, but
Yeah.
the pancakes were great. It was fun to make them, but
Sounds like
you
death.
were
I would rather just
sweating
make
profusely.
pancakes at my own house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea, it's a cool thought, but it's a really hot experience more than anything.
I'd rather eat pancakes at Bravo Express. Awesome little Greek restaurant here in town. Good pancakes.
I'm obsessed with blueberry pancakes right now. It's all I can think about.
Jim, I have to say those weren't as great as you made them out to be.
Ah, bro, I just love them.
I know you do.
I know you were
I
being
can't
nice to me
believe
that
you
day
let
too.
him do
You're
it.
like,
You told him that.
I'm sorry, Jim.
'Cause I kinda made it out to be the best
you
ones
were
of all time.
They were good,
I
but
mean,
they
I think
weren't
they're good.
the most amazing thing ever.
Well, they're
Cracker Barrel pancakes are great, but those power cakes that we've been eating are
I
delicious.
haven't had those
are
yet.
really good.
They are delicious.
Those are really good.
Because they're technically a protein pancake, but they don't taste like a protein.
What are they
powder.
called?
Power Kodiak cakes, I think.
Kodiak cakes. I
Yeah.
haven't had one yet.
They were
They get
really
them at
good.
your local Kroger's.
Can you get them at Kroger's or the
Yep.
Walmarts?
You probably get them at Walmart's if I had to guess,
Excellent.
Oh,
but they're delicious.
That sounds good. So you've been gone for a couple of days. You went to Florida.
Yeah.
No, she went to Alabama.
I went to. Everyone thinks I went to Florida.
I don't know where
Because
No.
whenever you leave, you always go to Florida.
Well,
she just,
yeah.
gosh, she was so angry when she left too.
So
I mean,
angry.
just stepped on the gas, screeched
Angry?
out of here,
What are you
dirt
guys
flying
talking about?
everywhere.
Didn't say bye to anybody.
What are you talking about?
Holy smokes.
I'm never angry.
Man, I was like, I don't think she's coming back.
She's gone.
That is 100% inaccurate.
Yeah, I just
I
totally
don't even
made that
remember
up.
departing that day, honestly.
Yeah, I totally made all that up. None of that was true.
It
I believed you.
could have
I went
been.
along with it.
It could have been that I found out. I'm really disappointed about this right now. I didn't want to bring it up because I feel like you guys would be like, "Hey,
We probably will. Go ahead though.
You find out that we put
Makes us-
fertilizer on your garden?
you did not.
I'm just
You
kidding.
absolutely not.
I'm just kidding.
Did you see the little corn shoot
I
things
saw
coming up?
there
and the
is
little
corn.
Pepper? There's like
Of
half
course
a
there's
pepper.
corn. We knew
Why,
corn.
is that easy?
Yeah.
Yes, corn is like.
I don't even think
gonna
that
happen.
part gets much water.
Wasn't that what the Indians showed the pilgrim? Like the first thing they're like, here, you can make corn.
You can do this.
And
didn't
I
know
think
that.
that's
Yeah.
like part of the problem with agriculture in Africa is because there's no nutrition in corn,
Right.
and that's all that people know how to make. Or
Put it in
grow
the
is corn.
ground. It will.
It will
If
come
you
up.
There's
plant it,
corn and-
it will grow.
Anyway, huh?
What else did you do?
Well, so
What else is
in the
out
Wall
there?
Street Journal this week, there was this article about recycling.
Oh, it's a
And
waste.
It's not a waste, and
A
I'm
waste of
still
resources?
I'm gonna pick out every single one of these that you try to murder turtles with. I mean, do you want a future for your family or what? You just want your kids to have no animals, no turtles, no grass, no whatever.
He's sending his kids to Mars.
It's lots of trees and
Yeah,
grass.
well,
I'm just saying.
it's like
So,
60 acres out there or something.
Yeah, they're
It's
planting grass
gonna
right
be
now.
all right.
well, allegedly,
Oh, allegedly.
the
They-
well,
they say.
I mean, in the
They
Wall
say.
this you're gonna be all happy about this. I'm not. That the prices for scraps of plastic and cardboard have plummeted, so recycling centers are having a hard time making it work because they have to pay to sort, they have to do all of these things,
Right.
and now it's like it was something like before 2 tons of plastic or cardboard was worth X amount of dollars, and it's dropped like 50% or something like that. But don't give up recycling. We still just need to keep it going, regardless of it. It'll come back, I think.
Okay.
Just,
I almost lost consciousness right there.
That was the hardest I've been in
Yeah.
a while. Wow.
are you ready for some real questions? This could be kind of an introspective day.
What was the other one you were talking about that was completely pointless? The food, the GMO things, how they were actually beneficial.
I don't want. What? No.
Mm-hmm.
What's beneficial?
You said it was
I
beneficial.
didn't say anything was beneficial.
No, remember?
Oh, I know. There's a TED Talk on it. Ugh. Well, it's because here's the thing about. Actually, this goes to something I heard today, which I thought was really valuable. It says if you really want to argue a point, what you need to do is you need to take the other side and argue against the point you're trying to make. That is incredibly valuable. I don't know why I didn't think of that long before.
That was the old school thing that you had to do back in the day when you had a class. We had debate classes, and
You
so
had to argue
there would be a topic, and then sometimes you had to argue for it, against it, regardless of what you
what you actually
believed.
thought.
Right.
So you could practice that.
Well, so
Skill
I
set.
saw the TED Talk that said, it was like GMOs are good. And I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to be open-minded. So, I mean, they had some great points. Just because it's genetically modified doesn't mean it's necessarily modified in the way that like people typically think causes like cancers and whatnot. Like things can be get the smirk off your face. So, for instance, like in third world countries, there's like a certain kind of it's not rice. I don't remember what they were growing. Anyway, there's like a very, very
You mean it's helping people?
there's a watery season. So they're like starving over here and they can't grow this crop because it just traditionally gets flooded. So what they did was they took that same crop, genetically modified it to be able to handle immense amounts of water.
Okay.
And now it's flourishing. So now it's feeding literally like 500,000 people that
Okay.
were starving. So okay.
Isn't that called didn't like Gregorian monks do that years ago and nobody freaked out about that?
I don't know. What do you know about Gregorian monks? Do tell.
Isn't that like the genetic chart and all that stuff?
I don't
they figure
know.
all that stuff and like
Jeez.
gonna have
breeding
to look it
plants
up.
and stuff like that? I
don't know.
Completely could be completely.
I don't know anything about Gregorian monks.
But I mean, they
thought that
do
was
have to like, yeah, I don't know. I apparently need to do a little more research, but
Apparently.
apparently, did you ever see that Ellen?
Apparently. I've never been on live television before. That little boy, he was so funny.
Apparently, Anyway, so maybe in that circumstance, if you're saving the world, it's fine.
It's fine. I don't know.
Turns out not all things that sound bad are bad.
Yeah.
Some things get lumped into a category even though they're not necessarily bad.
When does this happen to you? You
Happens
sound
all
like
the
you're
time.
taking this personally.
Happens all the time.
Like
you
what?
You can't isolate one thing and say that it's always bad.
Gotta do a little research all the time.
All the time.
When have
take
I not
everything
been
for-
open-minded?
When have you not been so open-minded that your brain leaked out? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. That was a joke.
Whatever.
You're smart.
Seriously, though.
You're
Here's
capable.
a real question. So I got all of these, like, there was like this, there were a lot of introspective questions I came across today. And I know how
introspective
much you guys
questions.
love those.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
love those. Let's see if your head falls off.
Probably explode here in about 35 seconds.
Okay, when was the last time, and sorry, no one's
Oh,
had a week to
geez.
think about this. I
Yep.
just got this today. When was the last time you gave of your time, money, or treasure without any expectation of anything in return?
Every single day. My wife and my kids.
Okay, well, you nailed that one then.
That's a big deal.
For sure.
Kids especially.
Yeah.
Wife expects some stuff.
I have
Just
like
kidding. Just kidding.
we talk about being intentional, and I always have a couple places where I'm intentionally with even outside of my family, giving something, my time, my energy,
Right.
Absolutely.
work.
I mean, I think you do that for people that you care about.
Ve-
Zero
very much.
And I think that's a true sign that you actually care about the people in your life when you're giving to them without any expectation
I
of
mean,
anything in return.
I was talking to a guy the other day about his ego and his problem with his ego, and how do I balance this? I'm always thinking about myself. The answer is give something away that actually costs you. Like, not just because it's the cool thing to do.
Your time
Something
is the
that
biggest thing.
something that
Yeah,
actually
sure.
is a sacrifice. That actually means you're giving something up.
Yeah.
That's the way to balance all that.
But even though too, I think that it's like I look up to my dad for this in this regard is yes, we always do that stuff for our families, which is awesome. I mean, obviously it's your family, you care about them. But I watch him on a daily basis do it for people that aren't his family that he might even not see for a long. But like he goes up to strangers and does things like that, and it's how he's hardwired. And it's so incredible to see how that affects his life. And how that actually impacts people and does actually make change. And like, you just think that these little things aren't going to make a difference, and they do. And it's really cool to see it in action because you don't often see that, like, especially like outside of like literally like a person you don't know or people that like, you know, or especially people that like are hard, like doing that for people that like it. I mean, you're like, there is no reason, but you do it. Like
Yeah.
it's really cool to see that in action in that situation too.
This guy that I was talking to was talking about, well, geez, sometimes I just don't feel like it. That's the point.
Right? Like,
Your emotions say I don't want to,
Yeah.
but your value system says, look, I'm going to
need to,
intentionally
yeah.
do this. This is really important. I don't really want to feel like it. The last couple of days were super taxing on me, like in an emotional way that normally doesn't happen to me. And I got up today, and actually Kristen wanted me to do some things today were way outside of what I had intended to do. And my wife does not ask very much of me very often.
Right.
She just doesn't. And man, it was everything. I had to go back to the bedroom, sit on a stool, and compose myself.
yeah.
Because based on what has happened the last couple of days, I was
Yeah.
just at my wit's end. I just had enough of people and other stuff and other things.
You want to do you.
I really wanted to get up here. I really wanted to work out because I needed to, because I haven't got to, and that's an important part. And then we got mayhem mindset stuff, and I want to get on that, and my brain wants to be only on that.
Yep. Right.
And then you want me to go pick up a new stove and install a microwave and do what? And I don't want to do any
Your
of that.
brain is like, whoa.
Leave me alone.
Call a guy.
Yeah.
Please, anyone.
Anybody but me.
And then you know what? So I had to go back and apologize because I didn't treat her right.
Right.
And that was a perfect space for me to sacrifice. And really, the truth of the matter is, God, I was being super selfish, and she doesn't ask hardly anything of me. And then I felt horrible because I didn't do it right by
Right.
her. And she's the sweetest thing to walk the face of the planet.
Right.
And all I had to do was go,
Do it and then
I
get
don't know, 3 or 4 hours of my time, and
Yeah.
and I pissed and moaned the whole time too. And I'm the one
Yeah.
who's supposed to have the tools to do this, and I'm telling other people. So, man, whew.
But that's brain chemistry too. Like, what is it? The amygdala or whatever. Like, if when it's taxed to a certain point, that's why a lot of people, it's easier to do stuff in the beginning of the day and it's harder at the end of the day, because once it's taxed to a certain point, it's a lot more difficult to make the hard decisions. It's like people struggle with diets, and at the end of the day, it's harder because the more you've had to, I don't remember the exact science, but challenged your brain and done so many things, once you get to this point, it's like, I can't even fire. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So at least you had the perspective and the ability, even through struggling through it, to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm a jerk. Most people just throw in the towel and it's just an argument or a bad day, you know?
It ends up being what we talk about. Like, instead of the emotion and trying to figure the feeling and getting caught kind of in that matrix loop, I really do realize it. I really do get it, and I really do see it. And then it's just sometimes it's a matter of,
Just need somebody else to kind of.
am I going to do what I say I believe?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not doing what's right here. I
Right.
am allowing my emotions to be out of control, and sometimes for a defined person that ends up being the battle. Will you do what you say
Right.
you believe, or will you just allow the emotions to
Yeah.
run you in circles?
Take hold.
Because it feels better sometimes, at least initially,
Yeah.
just to let it do, just to be angry, just
Yeah.
to let everybody know you're not feeling all right, and that's not what I want to do. And-
Yep. One of those days.
I've got some good. I need to show it to you that Washington book that I've been reading.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. When
Okay.
I get it. I've got it copied and pasted in notes.
I
on
haven't
my
started
iPad.
that book yet.
It's pretty good. It's not bad. It's I think he's just 26 now,
Mhm.
and so he just kind of retired from the colonial version of the British Army, and so it's kind of cool. The French and Indian War is over.
Yeah.
Now he's kind of going.
Oh,
back and
cool.
getting
I want to
married.
read it. It's what's the other book we're reading? The David
David the Great.
the Great. I got 3 chapters into that.
Do you?
Yeah.
I want to go slow on that one because I don't want to get too far ahead, and I'm kind of reading David's story in the Bible right now where I'm reading.
Right.
So I'm kind of getting both at the same time. But it's
There's a
pretty
good-
good. The
there's-
first chapter was good. I don't know how was it so far. 2 and
Good.
3.
Like, I have it all marked up.
Really?
There's a bunch of stuff in there that I thought were really valuable.
Right.
And then there's stuff I was like,
Don't agree with.
nah,
It's good.
blah, blah, blah. I wrote
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But that's good. It'll
Yeah.
be a great
Yeah.
conversation to
Yeah.
have. And
That's
it's
awesome.
takes us back to what you were just talking about, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's cool also to hear you guys, reading through the president books and everything else. It's cool that it actually goes through their life like in that order. That's really interesting.
Oh yeah, this one starts like when Washington was real young, and it kind of talks about backstory of like a lot of his male relatives died young, so
Yeah.
they were kind of like, whoa, and he had dysentery several times. He had hemorrhoids really bad to where he had to like ride on a pillow on his saddle. Like he, I forgot. There's
No
like,
inner
the
tubes back
dude.
then.
Mm-hmm.
The dude went through some crazy stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of cool.
And he had to kind of, he didn't have an inheritance.
Not really. He kind of ish, but no, he married into with Martha, his
Really
wife.
the money with her. Yeah.
But he was like, it's cool. It's a good book so far. Like
I
he's
think-
trying to work his way up the whole, aristocracy at the time.
one of the things that makes our lives a little bit unique and it keeps us on track is that we have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So we're reading these books, we have these conversations. We get to actually sit down and kind of do it in a podcast, which is really just us talking. But this is what's happening out there too, like I'm coming to him and telling him about this is what happened in my day to day, and we're having that discussion, and he's telling me about what he's facing and and it goes into business a little bit, but it goes into this idea of who we are as dudes, and how we want to live our lives, and we're reminding ourselves of that, and
That's awesome.
so we're thinking about it, we're intentional about it, we're thinking about it, because I don't know, that's Rich, that's not Jesus, and I'm Jim, I'm not
Agreed.
Jesus. I mean,
Agreed.
we're just
For sure.
dudes,
Just
I
dudes.
mean, we get it
We'll
wrong,
Screw
and
it up and
say I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
come back again, and try to hang out with people that think like we think.
Yeah. Well, as I was even writing down some of these questions today, I was thinking about that. I'm like, how cool is it that we get to sit down and talk about these? Because no one in the universe, if you go up and you're like, so what have you done with your time and treasure lately? They're like, Yo, what? You want to say who? It's like a little too much,
Yeah.
So it's cool to be
What are
able
you
to sit
talking
down.
about?
Nothing.
That's like if you really want to see where your heart is, and kind of really expose the truth. What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your money?
Yeah.
Those are a couple things that will really, even if you think this is what you're doing, let's go back and look at the checkbook. Let's
Yeah.
go back and look
Yeah.
at what you're doing with your time, and it really will tell kind of who you are and what you're doing.
I actually read that this week. I read somewhere that it was said, if you really want to know what someone's about, look at their schedule. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's interesting. I didn't really know how I completely felt about it, but I did take a step back and go, I don't know.
It's actually a really easy one. If you want to, you really want to know somebody's saying they're this, you want to step back, just kind of track a little bit about what you think they're doing with their time and their money and what that really is in their life. If you want to know what kind of tree it is, what's the fruit,
Yep.
step back and don't really listen, just watch and see. And then if you have a little bit of time, do it over time. Then you'll know what you got.
Right.
So I was listening to this guy on. I was listening to Impact Theory this week. I love that show. It's just so good. They have so many great people on. But so there was this guy on there, Judah Smith, and he's like some super impactful dude. I think he is like a pastor somewhere, but it's like in the most unconventional way that you could ever imagine. Like not anything you would relate to that word, basically. And for whatever reason, he's reached huge populations because he's extremely unconventional, but shares a lot of wisdom. Kind of like that monk I was telling you guys about before, who, he was just a normal guy, became a monk, came back, and now he shares wisdom, kind of along the same path. So I went through and I pulled out some points, and I want to just hear your opinion on these points. If you agree, disagree, whatever.
No, I will never be a monk. Nope. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
So I thought this was kind of interesting. It says, without conflict, you minimize the depth of a relationship and the ability to grow. He was saying, like, as a leader, he encourages people that he works with. Sometimes he's like, everyone's just too superficial in a meeting, and I can tell that someone's uncomfortable with someone else, and I'll say to them, what is really on your mind? What is going on right here? And then they'll vent and say something. The other person all of a sudden, gets super defensive and then wants to talk. But then at the end of the day, now they've talked through this thing that no one was going to say. The relationship is better, and they've all come together. And it's not like, hey, put everyone in a boxing ring, but it's bringing an awareness to, okay, let's talk this out.
I agree with that. I mean, I've noticed that just in the circles that we have, whether it's the team, the gym, or whatever, when so-and-so has a problem with somebody across the way but goes around the circle to another person, instead of just going straight to the person with the problem, you have way more problems.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we're going to stomp out, and we're doing some reorg stuff around at Mayhem, and that's something that has to change. Is we have way too many people that want to talk about people instead of to people. And so I 1,000% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to that Mayhem mindset tool, grace and truth.
I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying like you have to like go like, but don't go talk about somebody. Go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, like.
No, I think you're exactly right.
So tired of that.
If we have a relationship with somebody and we got miles with somebody, we need to be able to walk up to them, and we need to be mindful. And we need. I'm trying to pay attention to it, but hey, here's where we're at. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out there.
Hey, you did this the other day, and I want to see why you did. Like, I don't agree with how you handled that, or something. Like, you don't have to be a jerk about it.
Right.
But just.
Well, that's like you do that to me all the time. I'm like the most sensitive person in the world, so I feel like people like don't want to like. But you'll be like, Ellie, reel it back. Yeah. And you're like one of the few people that'll be like, be like, come on. Well, you just tell me as it is, and then I cry, and then I'm good. But he says it a little more gentle.
As much tact.
But it's okay. You still are honest.
I was never given tact as a child, so I was more truth than grace.
Right.
I was going to say so, but your relationship is much different,
right?
Because you're actually teammates, and there's this super competitive piece to who you are, and the expectation is in that environment is just truth. You kind of have a different level of relationship there, where I'm more like Uncle Jim, and I'm not. That's not. I'm not really coming at it from that perspective. But we do have enough relationship now to where you know that I care, and I'm not ever trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
But I am trying to always give you the truth as I see it, and then let you decide what you think about it. So.
But there's something to that too. Like I feel like immediately, like especially from like training and physicality standpoint, like if I can't do something, I want to run to you and be like, will you make me do this? Because I know that he can make me do it where I literally, for whatever reason, couldn't get there by myself, which that's a pretty cool thing to be able to like reach out, like in the same way that I look to you when I'm like, or you not correct me, but like help steer me the right way if I'm like saying something ridiculous.
If you're being emotional.
Yeah.
There is like, I totally realize now that when I look back at my life, I never got anywhere on my own. I have some talents and some abilities and some unique purpose, but I didn't get anywhere on my own. I actually have a list that I call the men who carried me. And as I look back over life, I know for sure that these individuals, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been where I am today.
Right.
And so I don't know, in this idea of team, which is one of my core values, that's a big deal. I can get things done inside of team that I could never do on my own.
Right.
With a culture and I don't know, when you guys at the high level, you guys compete in CrossFit, it's, as I said the other day, like when he says I'm doing a good job with something, I feel great about it, and I can run through a wall.
Right.
I'm ready to go, and that's an important component of that. You know, we find safety, security, inspiration, belief, and all of that.
For sure. Okay, next one. This one first I was like, yeah, wow. It is lazy to fire someone you are not keeping accountable. So if someone's
Wow.
doing something wrong, it's the person it's lazy to fire someone you aren't keeping accountable. So that's on you. And that's what this guy was saying, like in his business and what he's doing. He's like, well, I've hired, because as his like church and everything's grown so much, he's like, I put certain people in these things and then they didn't happen. And then he's like, I realized at the end of the day,
It's your fault.
right.
Yeah.
Why wasn't I involved? Why wasn't I giving them what they needed? And I don't think that's true for everything, but I mean, that was a pretty powerful statement. I was like, ooh, so keeping people accountable throughout, but it also gets challenging too. Like he's saying, if you have a church of 40,000 people, how are you going to be involved on every level? So
Right.
it's just interesting.
He probably can't be, but at that level, if he's, there's 40,000 people, but you had to put people in place.
Yeah,
People that
to
you
run
trust.
those spots.
I think that's totally true. I don't know how you would argue with that. That's
Yeah. Comes back to you.
Okay. This is kind of in your arena, Jim. People cannot be who they were created to be without community. It doesn't mean you have to have 10,000 people. It could be 1, 2, 3, or 10.
yeah. There's no question about that. It's kind of what I was just
Tribes.
saying. Like,
But why can people not help me understand that? Because it's always like, conflicts happening or things aren't going the way they're supposed to be in your life, your relationships, whatever. And people always say, well, take a step back and focus on yourself. What is it like? Do you not know your values, your goals, your everything? Like that's on you. But then this says people cannot be who they were created to be without community. So on that end of the spectrum, why is that?
Mayhem Mindset tool, the perspective we use in Mayhem Mindset is that every day I want to get up and I want to aim at the truth in my life. And the truth for me is this design, who I was created to be. So as I'm tracking, because I'm a human being, the first thing I do is go back to relationship. So I want to make sure I stay on course. So I'll go back to relationship. What are the relationships that are most important? My faith, that relationship's really important. My wife and my children, that relationship's really important. My close friends. So I want to go back to what you just said, community, people that come alongside me and that I believe in, that help communicate with me and keep me headed in the right direction. I got 2 or 3 guys in my life that have a little more experience than me. They're people that I'm always bouncing ideas off. I don't necessarily do what they tell me to do all the time, but I'm always interested in their perspective. I'm going back to the written words that I believe in. So the things that I know that are truth in that particular environment. So I think to stay on track and to be 100% of who you were created to be, we definitely have to go back to the people that support us and that are around. Nobody does that on their own.
Right.
So
You need people to hold you accountable.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
you get outside that lane,
Yeah.
most of us, I mean, depending on where you are, I guess, in your maturity or where you're at in your game, you can kind of self-assess, but you still need somebody there to kind of be like, hey, bro, or hey, girl.
Yeah, for sure.
girl.
I don't even know how you even. I
Hey,
guess
girl.
that's-
Hey, girl.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I don't know if I said
Sounds a
that.
little awkward, but
Hey, girl.
hey, girl.
What up, girl?
That's pretty good.
You're not. You gotta make sure you're.
We need to say it to you from now on.
Hey, girl.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Hey, girl.
Nah.
No, truth,
Yeah.
right there. Boom.
Right.
I don't know how.
I value having people in my life that will tell me the truth. I want people that can kiss my ass all the time. You want
Yeah.
people that are gonna be like, hey, we got to do this. You got to do this. Because at times, that's intention is one of the things that I struggle with at times because I let
Right.
competing and all that stuff. I'm very intentional about that, but some of the other things I let slide.
Yeah, there's no question, man. Now I'm old enough and made so many mistakes that I don't even consider major decisions in my life anymore without having the perspective, not of everybody.
Right.
I'm not interested in everybody's opinions, but these relationships that are closest to me that I got
Yeah.
miles with, who are proven people in business and in life.
Right.
Hey, what do you think, man? And I
Yeah.
absolutely try it on for size.
That also kind of was just hearing you guys say that, those are awesome perspectives too. What that also reminded me is that I think it also comes down to like, you always say like being in purpose and things like that. I feel and think I am in the most purpose through my interactions with others, and a lot of times the things I'm doing with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't accomplish that or be in purpose in what I think I'm created to be doing and
Yeah.
to be serving others if it wasn't for the people in my life that make me feel and think that I am in
Right.
purpose. So accountability, yes, but also those without those interactions,
Support. You
then
need some
what?
support. Yeah.
You know?
Your personal unique design, who you personally are, that's not who we are, is directly connected to people and community.
Yeah.
You're not you would
Die if you
I can't even
in this room
imagine
by yourself.
you alone.
Wilson.
Yeah.
I know Wilson.
sorry.
Yeah, like that would not be okay for you, and it's
Yeah.
not bad. It's just not your design.
Yeah.
You need to communicate. You need to talk. You need to connect. It's
We
all
can be
about
alone with
community.
our thoughts as long as we're doing something physical or doing something.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I can sometimes.
You would explode. Your head
but-
would just go.
As a way of life, that would not be,
No,
It would just pop. And not even like a huge explosion. It would just be.
and then just kind of shrink.
Yeah. Yeah, like a balloon.
Yeah. Hey, where'd Ellie go?
She gone.
She was alone.
She was
They're
alone
not
with her
true.
thoughts. Her thoughts are just
Like 36, 37 minutes. That was all.
It's like those days that for whatever reason I can't come train or whatever, and I'm like locked in the garage.
I would just love to see you
And-
talking to yourself.
and
Do you have a
like-
mannequin in there that you like talk to? You carry it around?
No, but well,
You'll text 50 times. Hey, what do you
thousands.
think about this? What about this?
I
What about
ask
this? What about
every
that?
opinion. The days that you guys get like 19 texts from me, I'm probably by myself and I'm withering away.
But
I'm just searching.
we're laughing, but there are some things that are really unique about you that are really interesting.
Yeah.
That the physical fitness part is for sure in your design. It's something that you're doing to make a living for sure.
Right.
But to move
Right.
is in your design.
Right.
You are going to freak if
Gonna
you're not
die.
moving.
Gonna die.
It's not going to be okay. You are very much the same. That is very unique. Yeah, being competitive is
Right.
very much in your design, and everybody who's on that team, it is in your nature
To be competitive.
People ask you all the time, "How do you do it?" And I don't. Hey man, it's in your design.
Yep.
So there's some things you can do to cultivate it, but so if you're not fitnessing and you're not in community, you are not living inside of your design, and that's not the same for everybody. It just
Yeah.
happens to be for you,
Yeah.
for sure. And you're gonna go crazy not doing it.
Oh, those
And
days.
so that you understand that ends up being huge because now you can connect who you be to what you're doing and live in purpose.
Yeah. And
Stay in
understand
purpose.
When you're working out by yourself, you're like, wow, this isn't as fun as I thought.
Right.
Anyway.
I like it some days working out by myself.
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, there
Or
are
maybe
days
one or two
like
where you're like, okay, this is good.
a long bike ride through the woods, going for a trail run. Let's see. Oh, I thought this was cool. So this guy, the way he teaches his kids, so this is like their family mantra, which is super cool. Yeah, he says we're kind, we're encouraging, and we look for lonely people. So this was something
It's
his
kind of like what you
Yeah.
That's what I told my kids almost.
kind,
awesome.
gentle, generous.
Yeah. And so what his dad taught him, who was also I guess the pastor before him who had the impact on his life, was he said, my dad always said, when you go into a room full of people, and man, this gave me goosebumps. He said he would not seek out the people that other people were communicating with.
Always one by himself.
He
That's what my mom always
literally,
said.
yep, he would seek out the person who looks excluded, looks like they don't fit, or maybe is just quiet, whatever. You seek out that person and you communicate with them first. And that's why part of his family mantra is and we look for lonely people. And
So
it's not
my
that the
mom-
person by themselves is lonely. I'm very
Right.
aware of introverts and extroverts in the world. That's
Right.
not what that means. But I love that. That, I'm I want to do this every time. That is,
Right.
to me, is such an incredible thing to do for others.
That's
But my mom always said that. If there was anybody sitting by himself, you never let anybody sit by himself at lunch.
Did you do that?
Sometimes. I'm sure there were times that I let that slide, but
Yeah.
that was always, she always preached that. It was like, never let anybody sit by himself. And now I'm like, dang, I wish I would have always done that,
Right.
Like, at
Do
the
you
time.
remember any experiences from that? Obviously, I'm sure that was a long time ago, but
Nothing like sticks. I do remember like random times where I would just be like, people that either were, by themselves, I would sit with or talk to that people normally didn't talk to. But, as a kid, you're kind of like, it just kind of depends.
But I mean, if you think this is kind of a little heavy, but so I had a friend who was he was a standout athlete in high school, and he went to University of Florida the same time as I did and played football there. And later in life, ended up committing suicide.
Jeez.
And so all of us went back to speak at our high school after it happened. And so I was reaching out to all the people and just, talking about him because he's just he was an incredible human being. Just his heart was huge. And one of the people I reached out to said he was incredible because I was the kid in high school that no one spoke to. And he said, this guy would always address me, would always show me the most kindness, and he was popular, basketball, football, whatever, and no one else would talk to me.
Wow.
And like, it gets me choked up even thinking about it, because I mean, that like
impact you
that
can have,
stayed
yeah.
with him for like the rest of his life, and
Right.
everyone knows how awkward like those years are. So like, you could have been that to somebody. Like, thank goodness it's not like something that has to come back around to talk about. But I mean, having the opportunity to be that is
huge.
that's powerful.
what you
The
want to teach
ability
your
to
kids.
like moments of elevation, they happen when people are young. So if you have the ability to go find a lonely person going through something, I mean, that's huge. You know?
Values and rules aren't the same thing. When people mix those things up. Rules are important, but when my kids were little, I wanted to have as few rules as possible, because think about it, you got to memorize a rule, and this is what we're doing. And I wanted to teach values. I started with kind, gentle, and generous. Was that kind? Was that gentle? Was that generous? It didn't have to be some monster rule. I could simply say that to them, and then they could make the judgment about what they just did.
It's incredible.
So I wanted to begin to teach this idea, the difference between who you be, your talents, your values, and your purpose, and the do. And in Mayhem Mindset game, the do is actually a rule.
Right.
So I want to keep the rules to a minimum, and I really want them to be able to make these judgments based on what they believe is the truth. So I wanted to teach more values, not just reciting 6 rules or 7 rules. Although rules are important. I'm not
Right.
saying rules aren't important.
Right.
I just think, there needs to be a good mix of those kind of things. So, gosh, that guy taught his kids that right off the bat. He was teaching them 2 values to believe in, and then telling them how we were going to execute it. This is what we're going to do with this lonely person over here.
But so how early in life did you start saying that to your girls? And is that something like you literally said through like high school and everything you did? Or, I mean, when do you start instilling that, and how do you do that?
I honestly at that point didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I really didn't know any better, but it's how I wanted them to act. I knew that's what it was.
Right.
And I didn't know how to make a rule necessarily that told them how to act. And I come from a lot of rules, and I hated the rules.
Right.
I didn't want to do the rules, and I didn't want to give them a ton of rules.
Right.
I just didn't want to do that, because that's how I was raised. So I literally just started with it. Well, because they were fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to be kind.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else, but we're going to be kind. Kind.
Right.
Put it on the freaking fridge.
Yeah.
No, Brittany's beating on Taylor. You're going to be gentle. And you're selfish, so we're going to be generous.
Yeah.
I'm going to say those 3 dang
Right.
things until you're blue in the face.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really know what age, because Lakeland's probably still a little too. She's starting to now, where you can
Right.
kind of reason with her. She's still a bit of a wildcat, but
But that's why I
it's
asked.
hard. It's hard. I mean,
Well, the other part about rules is that, like what you just said, you have to be able to reason with some of that.
Right.
It has to be reasonable. And when they're little,
she has to be able to
they're
understand it.
not reasonable.
Well, that
Right.
They would
Right.
eat Oreos over spinach any day.
And that's why I ask, because I mean, obviously kids are sponges and they repeat over and over again what you're saying. So I mean, do you
My
start
kid
that with, a 3-year-old, or do you?
Right.
I mean, does it take a certain amount of like contemplative? Because even though between you're 5 and you're still hearing those things, and are you really understanding how to apply them? But like, it's just
But
hearing it.
it's nobody knows. Honestly, I don't think there's a true
Nobody
answer.
knows.
Nobody knows. Hashtag. But I mean, if you look at, you've been around long enough to know Trice. You probably met Lakeland about the same age Trice is now.
A little, yeah.
Think
Yeah,
about polar opposites
Oh, that
those
is
2
true.
kids are. So it's going to be you're going to have to figure out how that's going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Lakeland needs to be kind, gentle, and generous. Trice probably doesn't need that, because the kid's the happiest
Right.
kid ever,
Yeah.
the most laid back
He's
kid
chill,
ever. So we're going to
for
have
sure.
to, so we're going to have to figure out what that is, you
Like
know?
that's so true. Like Lakeland's design, the way we believe, it's how God made her.
Yeah.
So she goes high speed
All the time.
at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that's good.
Yeah.
Right.
She is going to be an amazing human being with the
Absolutely.
ability to be on her own, be courageous,
Yep.
make something happen. Now it needs to be shaped and molded and connected to values. It's just like you and compete.
Yeah.
If you compete in the wrong place, it's not a great thing. If
My
you compete
marriage
in the
is
right
not a good
place,
thing.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You win championships.
Right.
So, and the other piece with Lakeland's a great example. She's 4. We're leaving the airport the other day, and she's having a conversation with you, and I'm listening, and you're talking to her like she's 17.
Right.
You're not baby talking her.
No.
And she gets it, and she's already trying to communicate back.
Yeah, that's
She's
cool.
saying things that you have to kind of. She gets frustrated that you don't understand what she's trying to say, but she's 4.
Yeah.
So she understands things. And
She's
different children are different.
Right.
Brittany got things a whole lot faster to some degree, and some things Taylor got. So what I had to say to her was just different.
Yeah.
So it depends on your kid.
Yeah, and Trice is right now is too young to even
Yeah.
respond. Like last night, Violet's finally getting over a little colic, and so she was just kind of laying on the floor, and Trice was just kind of like, ooh,
Right.
I get to beat on somebody else instead of getting beat on.
Let me
Right.
squeeze
so-
this.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be different.
That's
crazy.
just a process for sure.
Yeah.
There is not
There's
a
no one
to
answer,
that.
and anybody who wants to tell you they have the answer for kids
It's
is.
dumb.
Did you see this? I don't know why this just came up. There was some sexual therapist that said you should get your child's
gosh.
consent before you change their diaper.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
how? I don't understand. How do you
Yeah.
what?
That's stupid.
That's
Like,
ridiculous,
seriously?
right?
Your kid's
What
gonna
do
be in poo a long time.
Ridiculous, right? Laker would
Yeah.
never let
Stand
me
in
change her diaper.
bed.
Like
Right. This is where we've come.
this is
You know,
Yeah.
insane.
You know what I did? Like what I tried to figure out was I didn't discipline mistakes. There might be correction for mistakes and penalties for mistakes. What I tried to figure out, did they understand and
Did
were they
do it
being
on purpose?
rebellious?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And if there was rebellion, then I wanted to discipline the rebellion.
Yeah. If
You know,
Lakeland
that-
spills something, I'm like, hey,
No.
it's okay, buddy. Like it happens.
Yeah.
But if she takes this drink and just does
Right.
that, then I'm gonna.
Right. Now we're going to discipline
See
that.
ya.
Then there's gonna be some punishment.
And she obviously knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Big
and at that,
difference.
so I think at that point, then that's different for each kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Taylor, I desperately wanted her to get in trouble. She never got in trouble.
Yeah.
She got in trouble for one of the first times her senior year. She went to the party her senior year in high school where everybody drinks and goes out into the woods and does
Like
this
a skip day kind of thing. or
Yeah,
something?
kind of like the big. And she's never even done that. I find out she has a couple of beers and she gets caught by the cops in her car and
gosh.
passed out in her car. I was so excited. Made me so happy. She hadn't been in trouble her whole freaking high school career.
Oh gosh.
And yet you need to make some mistakes. There needs to
Yeah,
be
you gotta
Yeah.
figure. As long
lessons
as there's
learned.
not major mistakes. then, yeah.
It didn't cost her life.
Right.
I'm not talking about things that would destroy you.
Agreed. Right.
That'll
She
keep
wasn't
her
out
from-
drunk
yeah.
driving. They pulled up in the mountains and started having beers and
Yeah.
don't look at me all self-righteous like that. But no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But Brittany, of course, shoot, man, holy smoke, she made plenty of mistakes. It's just different. Is what I'm saying.
Different. Yeah.
Kids are different.
Yeah.
You're gonna parent
Yeah.
every kid different.
Yeah. Good luck. Just work hard at it.
Yeah.
Stay on top of it.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right.
Okay,
Finish. What we got
We're
here?
finishing.
I mean,
this is
we're
not
at
even
an hour,
like
almost at an hour.
what?
Right?
Wow, time flies.
I think so.
Oh.
52 minutes.
Yeah. We
That's-
got 8 minutes.
Okay.
She was just having fun.
I have so many more things to talk
All right,
about.
keep
save
going.
it for the next one.
Keep going.
True or false? A legacy is about service. I read that, so I want to know if you guys
I
thought it
think
was true or false.
service is a part of someone's legacy.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean, you've got to create. I don't know.
Shoot, there's a lot of things that are. I mean, legacy. So define legacy. Like
I mean,
who I am, what I believe, what I've accomplished, what I've done.
well, and your legacy is that not what you leave behind, but
Right.
Let's
I
see
mean,
what the definition of
in
legacy
my mind,
is.
I feel
let's do
like
that.
it's like
This would be important.
what your gift to the world is kind of
Mm-hmm.
behind. If you're not there anymore, like what message impact, like what did you know? And I mean, my instinct when I saw that was a legacy is about service because I think, serving others is the way to find purpose and obviously impact.
I
for
think
more than just ourselves.
in the Mayhem Mindset game there are two keys to purpose. To get it to heading towards purpose. One, do something difficult.
Mhm.
So it has to be hard in order for it to be purposeful. If we're headed towards this idea of big purpose in your life, and the other one is it has to cost you something. You need to serve and give to somebody in the game.
Legacy is a gift of property, especially personal property or as money. No, anything handed down from the past as from an ancestor or predecessor. That's.
I don't think
Old update. Nope.
I don't think I can be everything that I was designed to be. I don't think I can be 100% of the man that I was created to be unless I'm serving. I think it's one of the most important components. I need to be making a sacrifice. And the people that I honor and I respect in the culture that we live in are people who are serving and who are giving. And some of them even give their life.
Absolutely.
The greatest example of service, of love. So I I don't think it's everything, but I think it's a huge component.
Well, we talked about before too, like if you're feeling lost, serve others, and you usually start finding your path again, which I think is so true.
When my wife left me and I was in that depression, I went to church, and this female pastor who was a very good friend of mine, who I'd known for a long time, she just basically looked at me and she said, I'm tired of you having your big pity party. And then she swore, and I'd never heard her swore. She said, this is Bo, S-H-I-T. And she said, you will be, I need a kindergarten Sunday school teacher. Mm-hmm. You will be here on Sunday, and you will start to serve somebody else. If you're going to get better, you got to serve. Awesome. And you can't screw up a bunch of kindergartners, so you'll be here on Sunday morning. And I was like, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be here.
I did it for 4 years.
Wow.
And it was where I started to get better and my heart started to heal was with kindergartners.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I began to love it. And I literally started with kindergartners. Okay, how do I make this kid's life better? I'm going to run into this pole.
Yep.
And he's going to laugh, and we're going to do all that. We're going to do puppet shows, and I did all that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really my deal, but I figured that out. And then they had all kinds of crazy little lives with all kinds of hurt and all kinds of parents and problems. And I tried to show up and give back to them, And then it grew from that to...
It's just so much value, because what happens to people when they're feeling lost or they're feeling alone or they're feeling like they're not enough or they don't matter? They go and they isolate and they do all these things. And how are you going to learn or cross paths or learn any empathy or see anything else if you're not... Just go serve somebody.
You have to get outside of you, right?
Yeah.
You have to get outside of self and outside of emotion. Mm-hmm. You have to stop with that. Mm-hmm. It's no different than working out, right?
Yep.
You don't care how we feel when we're competing. Get outside of that.
Yeah.
Be present. Go to work. It's going to hurt.
Yep.
Life is analogous.
Yep.
Stop. I understand you feel. I acknowledge it. It's an important part of life. It brings life meaning, but man, let's do something for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make a sacrifice.
Gosh, so many more great things to talk about, but we've
got more podcasts.
Yeah, this will be the last one.
CrossFit.
And if it is, it was good.
Yep. Peace. CrossFitMayhem.com. FroningandFriends.com. Check us out, or leave us some feedback on YouTube, but more on iTunes.
Still any shirts available?
Still some regional shirts available.
Yay!
Be on the lookout for Mayhem Mindset on the CrossFit Mayhem website.
Yay!
Yeah, it's not a lie.
It'll be here eventually.
It's
We're working
real
on
life.
it. We're gonna have it right. All right. Peace.